It's very common in the narcissistic abuse cycle to run into times where you start to feel like things might be getting better, where you're saying things to yourself like, they really seem to be listening to me. I think maybe the hard times are behind us. They really finally seem to get it. And this is something that can really keep you stuck in the cycle of narcissistic abuse. And that's why I want to talk about it today. What if the narcissist actually did change? Welcome to Looking Behind the Mirror, where we explore narcissism and take our lives back as we make sense out of nonsense. As a quick disclaimer, everything I say is based on my opinions and my personal experiences. I'm not a professional, and if you're really struggling, I encourage you to seek professional help. I am providing links below for you. I want to start the video by clarifying what I'm talking about. I think for most of my audience, I'm talking about narcissistic abuse. I'm talking about narcissistically abusive people. And I don't want anything I'm saying in this video to be confused with, quote, normal relationships, meaning relationships with people who are reasonable, people who actually care about you, people that want the relationship to work, because we're all capable of making mistakes, of changing our ways, of forgiving each other. But that's part of this confusion. That's part of what can keep us stuck in a narcissistically abusive relationship when we don't know that we're not with a reasonable person that cares about us. So that's part of what I want to talk about in today's video. I hope that as I describe what I'm going to go through, that you can tell the difference between somebody that actually cares, somebody who is capable of change, who wants to change, and an abusive person. When you're dealing with a narcissist, or an abusive narcissist, I should say, you're dealing with somebody who's really hurting you. The things they're doing, the things that you hope and wish that they would change, are things that are really harming you. They cause you pain, heartache, they tear down your self-esteem, they make you question your reality, your ability to perceive things correctly, your judgment, they affect you psychologically, maybe physically. These are things that are really harming you. So I'm talking about abuse. I'm not talking about somebody that maybe doesn't listen to you or needs to work on that, and you talk to them about it and then they put an honest effort into trying to listen to you better. Or, something that maybe hurts your feelings but isn't like tearing you apart and ruining your life. Because like I said, I think people that actually care about you are capable of listening to your concerns or listening to things that you try to talk to them about, things that are hurting you, and they're capable of taking that seriously and putting in an honest effort to change those things. When you're with a narcissist, I think you tend to assume that you're with that kind of person because that's the kind of person you hope you're with. That's the kind of person maybe they told you that they were. This is somebody that told you they cared about you, or somebody who's supposed to care about you. So you assume that you're dealing with somebody who would care if they were hurting you, who would care if what they're doing is tearing you apart and ruining your self-esteem. And it takes a lot of experience with this person. It takes a lot of growth to be able to see and accept that you're dealing with somebody who is not willing to change for you. But what keeps us trapped, hoping for change from somebody who isn't going to change? Part of it is that there is a cycle of abuse where it does seem like they're changing. There are periods of time for probably most abusive relationships where they do finally seem to be listening to you, or they do seem to be a little bit nicer. They finally seem to be getting it. And you're so filled with hope and or relief that they finally seem to be listening. They finally seem to be meeting the bare minimum of your needs, that you convince yourself that the bad times are behind you. They finally get it. Everything's going to be wonderful from now on. And you stay put until, of course, things always inevitably return back to the abusive behavior. And you might ask yourself, how do you know? How do you know if this person's really changing, if this person's really worth a second chance? And how do you know if things are going to go right back to the way they were? I think there's a lot of ways I could answer this, and that's what I'm going to do in this video. But one answer I have for that is just the very fact that you're asking that question is a huge red flag, because when somebody who actually cares about you is altering a behavior or trying to do something a little differently because you asked them to, there's no wondering about it. There is a trust. There's a feeling of safety. There's a solid ground underneath you when you're dealing with someone who truly cares, who's truly listening to you. And you aren't stuck wondering, do they really mean it? Are they really going to stay this way? I mean, I think things finally seem to be going well. You're not going to be in that mentality with somebody who really means it. I've seen this pattern a lot. I mean, I've seen it in my own personal romantic relationships, but I think it's also interesting to point out where I've seen it in professional relationships. I had a friend who, or I have a friend who had a very narcissistic, I would say abusive boss, very abusive in my opinion. And she worked for him for a very long time. And she would call me every now and then and complain about the way he was treating her. And it was really harming her. It was really causing her a lot of pain and a lot of stress. But then sometimes she would call me and I would often hear her say things like, things are a lot better now. He's being a lot nicer. I think, you know, things are better. I think everything's going to be fine. And I think it was really difficult for her to see how she kept going back and forth in this cycle until it finally reached a point where she finally was able to get out of there, thankfully. I also know somebody who worked for an extremely narcissistic boss, and this boss was a woman. So he said he would observe his coworkers often saying things like, she finally seems to understand what it is I'm getting at, or she finally seems to be on the same page with me. She finally seems to get it. Like, all of his coworkers were in this constant state of feeling like she's finally listening to me, but she never really was. It was just this up and down, up and down. And that cycle itself is the red flag. That cycle itself is the problem. When you're with someone who's reasonable, who's actually changing a problematic behavior because they finally recognize it, you're not going to have this constant cycle of, oh, things finally seem to be getting better. Oh, we're almost there. I think we're almost through the hard times, because things are just going to be reasonable and safe. And you're going to feel like you can trust this person, and you're not going to sit and worry and wonder about it. When you're dealing with a narcissist, I think that before you realize what you're dealing with, you have these expectations that are just natural, and you're probably not even conscious of them. You expect the people that you share your life with to see you, to listen, to care. And this is supposed to be reciprocal, and you just expect this. But when you're dealing with a narcissist, this expectation that you have and this vision that you have of who they are clashes with reality when this person does things that show you that they really don't see you, they don't trust you, they don't really even know you, they aren't listening to you, they don't care about you. And this is really difficult to reconcile when you're emotionally invested in some type of relationship with somebody that you believe cares about you. Because it's really hard to accept and understand and believe that this person actually doesn't really care and isn't even seeing you, isn't listening to you, has no idea what kind of person you actually are, is superimposing their idea over the top of you of who they think you are or who you should be. And so I think that this subconscious expectation and hope and longing that you have can be very disturbed by the way this person actually treats you. And so I think subconsciously a lot of us will just desperately look for, hope for, and try to pull out of this person signs that they do see us, they do care, they do think about us, they do listen, right? Because we just can't accept the reality of who this person actually is, at least not right away. It's a lot easier said than done. And so when we're in this painful relationship that's constantly clashing with our idea of who this person is. It's really easy when they show us these tiny signs that they care, these tiny signs that they can finally see us or that they're finally willing to change for us. It's really easy to get completely carried away in that and say, oh, finally, they're finally doing what I need. I knew it. I knew this person really cared about me. I knew that things would work out if I just stuck around and didn't give up. It's really easy to just put all of your worries down, all of this pain, all of this subconscious feeling that something's not right. It's such a relief to be able to just put it down, that it's too much of a temptation to just let all those concerns go and just to ignore all the terrible things this person has done to you. But in reality, what's happening is outward. The narcissist is showing you who they are when they are treating you like garbage, when they're treating you like you don't matter, that they don't care what you think or how you feel about anything. That's who they really are. And they're not going to change that, but they're going to show little outward changes in order to keep you on the hook, in order to keep control over you. And you're very likely to mistake that as inner changes when nothing inside the narcissist has grown or changed. The narcissist hasn't finally understood what you're trying to say to them, because they've understood all along. They just don't care. What you're seeing is outward changes of behavior that are very superficial and are nothing more than a manipulation. Because narcissists do not want to put any more effort into the relationship than is absolutely necessary. Because why should they? Why should they spend their time and energy on things that are just going to serve you? That's how they look at it, right? And they're only going to put the time and effort that they absolutely need to into the relationship in order to keep control of you and to keep you serving their needs in whatever way that you're serving their needs. And it's annoying to them when they have to kind of get up and put a little more effort into it in order to keep you on the hook. Their comfort zone is just doing whatever they want, treating you how they want, lying, cheating, whatever it is they're doing, yelling at you, insulting you, blaming you for everything. That's their comfort zone. That's part of what they need you around for. And when you start to push back, when they start to feel like they've pushed things a little too far and they're starting to lose control, then they're going to okay, I guess I've got to put some gas in this car. I guess I have to put in a little effort to keep this person on the hook. And that's when they'll be a little nicer. Some of them, right? This doesn't always happen, but some of them will be a little nicer, try a little harder. Maybe they'll actually listen to you or pretend to listen to you. But then as soon as you start to really believe this and buy into it, as soon as you really start to think, oh, they finally get it, they're finally listening, and you let your guard down and you put your heart back into this relationship and your trust back into it, now they don't have to put so much effort in. They can back off, they can relax and kind of go back to the way things were. So to a narcissist, the cycle is, oh, I got to try a little bit harder to keep this person on the hook. I got to put a little more effort in. And then I can relax. Okay, now I can go back to normal and just do what I want. But for the abuse victim, the cycle is, oh, I'm being treated like garbage. I'm being treated like I don't matter. I'm in so much pain. This person is hurting me. Oh, finally they seem to get it. Now things are getting back to normal. They're getting back to a place where they're supposed to be. Now I can see this person does care about me. This person does love me. I don't have to face any of the horrible realities that I don't want to look at, because it looks like everything is fine after all, and everything's going to be okay. And then, of course, as soon as you really start to put your trust in that, the narcissist goes right back to abusing you. I also think it's important to really consider the difference between isolated incidents and cycles of abuse, because your brain kind of tricks you into thinking every time things start going better, every time you're in the peak of this peak and valley cycle of abuse, every time you're in this peak, your brain kind of tricks you into thinking and believing that this is new, that this is the first time that things have really turned around, and everything's going to be fine now. This is different than last time. They really seem to get it now. And this is, I think this can get pretty complicated. I think that this is related to things that addicts deal with your brain fooling you into thinking that this is what you need to be happy, because all you know is the valley down here where things are terrible. And when you're up here, it's such a relief. It feels so good to have that pain gone, that you don't remember the way that this cycle has affected you in the past, because you really don't want to deal with it because it's so painful. And when you're feeling that relief and you're feeling that hope, why would you want to go back to the reality that you've been living with? And that's why I think it can be very helpful to journal your feelings. Like the friend that I had that I have that had a very abusive narcissistic boss, I think maybe if she had journaled how she felt each day, and if she was able to go back in time and really see the way that she was repetitively saying things like, he seems to be doing better, he seems to be nicer, yeah, I think things are okay now. If she could really see in a journal the cycle of how she kept going back and forth, I think that would have helped her come to clarity a little sooner. So I think if you're stuck in this kind of cycle, I think writing your feelings down daily or regularly can really help you identify that this isn't something that's finally happened. This is just part of the cycle that you are reliving over and over and over again. I think another thing to consider, another thing that can keep you stuck in this relationship when the narcissist finally seems to be changing, is your expectations. And I think this is a little hard for me to describe, but I think, at least for me, there was this feeling of just assuming that, of course, this person is supposed to be nice, supposed to listen when I'm trying to say something that's important to me. They're supposed to care if they're hurting me. Basically just bare minimum stuff. I'm supposed to be able to expect the bare minimum. And so if this person is not giving me the bare minimum, if they're being cruel and insulting me and just being hypercritical, they're angry at me all the time, well, they're supposed to change, right? And I don't know if I'm describing this the right way, but I think when you're the abuse victim, to you, it seems so simple. It seems so easy. And so it's really hard to understand that this person is treating you the way they want to treat you. And it's easy to assume that if they just understood that their behavior is hurting me, they would change it just like that and everything would be fine. I just need to get my point across to them. They just need to understand how unreasonable they're being, and they would change and everything would be fine. Because to you, it seems so obvious, it seems so simple that they are being terrible to you. And until you accept that this is because this is who they are, they want to be terrible, they want to treat you like garbage, until you really accept that they are not this wonderful person that you believe that they are, that you're invested in believing they are, that they are not someone who cares about you, they are not someone who wants to listen to you, until you are really ready to accept that. It's too easy to buy into this idea that you're just one conversation away from getting through to them, because it should just be so simple. If it could just click, then everything's going to be fine, right? But that's never going to happen, because they already understand that they're hurting you. They already understand all of these things. They're choosing to act this way because they don't care. They care more about making themselves feel better through extremely toxic, unhealthy ways, using you as a sort of emotional punching bag, emotional toilet. That's what you're for. And until you can accept that, it's too easy to get stuck and buy into this toxic hope that, oh, I think they're just about to get it. Because the truth is, they already get it. They already understand. They have understood the whole time. And if I'm speaking for myself, I want to point out that when I had these expectations of course this person's going to want to listen to me, of course this person's going to want to consider my feelings, of course they don't want to hurt me. Part of me, of course, expected this, but no part of me demanded it. And that's something that I've changed within myself. And it's been a lot of work. When somebody didn't treat me right, when somebody treated me like I didn't matter, when they were insulting me, when they weren't listening, when they would just hurt me and they didn't care, instead of seeing that for what it was, accepting it, and then deciding that I don't need that person in my life, I stayed and I tried to change it, or I hoped to change it, because I knew what I wanted, but I didn't really understand that I didn't have to accept less than that ever. Not for one day, not for 1 minute do you ever have to accept being treated like however you don't want to be treated. And it's not up to you to wait for somebody to change or to make somebody change, to convince them to change into the person you think you deserve. It's up to you to decide that this person is not someone that you want in your life, to accept them for who they are and decide that you deserve to be treated better. And if you deserve to be treated better, it's really up to you to remove yourself from somebody who doesn't think that you deserve to be treated better. Because if they thought you deserved to be treated better, they would be treating you better. You could also ask yourself, if you're stuck in this cycle of up and down, why, if you choose to stay when you're up here in the peak, when you're up here in this toxic hope, why do you let that determine your decisions of who you're going to stay in relationships with, instead of down here in the valley, instead of down here where somebody betrays your trust, or somebody is cruel to you, or somebody's insulting you and treating you like you don't matter? Why don't you make your decisions down here? Why don't you say to yourself, things seemed to be going all right, but you know what? This person's really not getting it. They're really treating me like garbage and I deserve better. Things are getting worse. Things are always going to come right back to this place. To kind of reverse your mentality, instead of hoping and longing that things are finally going to get better, as if this person really is worth all of this, right? Why don't you make your decisions down here where the person's really showing you what they really think of you? I also want to point out, like I was saying in the beginning, about how this cycle itself is a red flag. When you're in a healthy relationship with someone who actually cares about you, there is not this element of longing and hoping and wishing and waiting and wondering, like this feeling that you're dragging them along and you're waiting and you just don't know what to do, and you're asking yourself, should I give this person another chance? Just this longing is the best way I can describe it. You don't have that when you're in a healthy relationship. The person that you're in a healthy relationship with just cares. They just are who they are. You can trust them because you've established trust over a period of time. You feel safe. You know what to expect from them, and they are consistent with the way that they treat you. And there's not like this, oh, I think they finally get it. Maybe they finally are listening to me this time. There's none of that. There's none of this hoping that something good happens, because things are already the way they are, and you're already able to just accept things the way they are because your needs are being met. In my opinion, after everything I've experienced, I've learned to just accept people for exactly what they are and exactly how they treat me. And that doesn't mean being okay with it. That means accepting that this is the way this person is. I cannot change this person. And I'm going to make my decisions based on who this person is, not on who I hope they are, not on who maybe they seem like they're being this week. Maybe I think they're finally going to turn into the person I need them to be, but who they really are. If I just let it go, if I just stopped trying to communicate, stop trying so hard to make a square peg fit into a round hole, if I just stopped trying to drag them along this path, stopped desperately trying to explain things to them, who are they? If I just let them be, if I just let them sit and I stopped trying to get through to them so hard, who are they, right? That's who they are. And accepting them for that and then making your decisions based on who they are is so freeing. And really, there's really no alternative to it other than just stressing yourself out for no reason and staying in relationships for what you hope they might turn into someday. I also want to say that even if a narcissist changed, and even if they truly were trying to be a better person, trying to meet your needs, and they had some huge epiphany, you don't owe second chances to anyone ever. And I get comments sometimes from people that are kind of mad with some of the things I say or angry with some of the things I say. And it's usually people that have done things to really mess up relationships they've been in, and they will say things like everyone deserves a second chance, and like, but what if you're really sorry? It's like, well, that's great. I mean, it's up to you if you want to give someone a second chance, right? But when you do things to destroy a relationship, or you cross someone's boundaries, and when you hurt someone, you are not entitled to their forgiveness. You are not entitled to be in that person's life just because you're sorry or because you're trying to be better. Nobody is obligated to give anyone a second chance when that person has hurt them, crossed their boundaries, lied to them, betrayed them. It is solely your decision and your decision alone who you want to have in your life and who you don't. And nobody else can tell you who you're allowed to stay in contact with and who you aren't. That is completely up to you, and you don't owe second chances to anyone, even if they changed. And in that same vein, I want to give you another thought experiment if this is something that you're struggling with. I know for me, with one of my relationships that was very abusive, when I was in this stage of desperately hoping that he might change, maybe he's going to get it, maybe if I just say this the right way or do this the right way, I started thinking about all the ways that he had betrayed me when the relationship started falling apart. And I really thought to myself, wait, okay, even if he changed, he's badmouthed me to all of his friends, to his family. He has said things that like painted me as the bad guy. Who knows what he's said? I don't even know the half of what he's told other people. Even if he changed, am I supposed to just go back to normal and just like go out to a barbecue with these old friends that I used to spend time with? How's that going to work? How are we supposed to go back in time before he started bad mouthing me? I mean, is he going to go around and tell everybody that he lied about the way I was treating him? Is he going to go around and tell everybody that he was actually abusive and that he made stuff up and that it actually wasn't my fault? I don't think he's going to do that. And even if he did, now it's awkward, right? I don't want to be part of that. How are things ever going to go back to the way they were? I think in abusive relationships, sometimes there is a point of no return. And sometimes we can get so caught up in this fantasy of hoping that maybe the narcissist will change that we don't stop to think about what it would actually look like, and how for many of us, the narcissist has done and said things that we actually aren't going to be able to come back from. And I think it's important to think about that and ask yourself, is there really anything this person could do at this point that would allow me to feel safe with them again? Can I ever really trust this person again, even if they changed? Do I really feel comfortable with this person? Could I ever feel comfortable with them again? Because I think for a lot of us, when we are hoping and wishing and longing for change and asking ourselves if change is possible, it's not really change that we're looking for. What we're really hoping and longing for is to go back to a place, to go back in time to where we thought we were with someone that cared about us, to where this person still had their act going, where this person still had us convinced that we could feel safe with them and that they cared about us. And so while I will acknowledge that it is not 100% impossible for a narcissist or an abusive person to change their ways, it is 100% impossible to go back in time. And when you look at it that way, I hope it might be a little easier for you to let go of this toxic hope that maybe the narcissist will change. I hope this helps. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and comment below any ideas you have for me for future videos. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you like this video and would like to see more like it in the future. Until next time, thanks. Bye.